Not long ago, someone left a comment under one of my videos and they asked, well, what can we eat? Grass? Well, they seem to either be a bit mocking or desperate or both, but it's a good question and really one that diabetics so often want to know. What can we eat and what should we avoid? What should our diet be? I think most diabetics and people with blood sugar problems instinctively realize I've got to change my diet. So the video that you're going to see today is a part of the answer to that question. There's a lot more to it. I ended up with a lot more material than I could show in one video, so there'll be some more to come. But this is a partial answer to the question, well, what can we eat? But along with that, what should we avoid? Welcome to Beat Diabetes, and I'm here outside of Walmart to invite you to come with me on a shopping trip. And let's find out what is good and what is not good to eat for those who want to beat diabetes. Okay, well, actually, I'm not outside of Walmart. I'm in front of my green screen. I did go to Walmart earlier today, and I took a bunch of pictures just to demonstrate some of the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to foods that diabetics, pre-diabetics, and pretty much everybody else ought to either eat or not eat. And once in a while, some of the iffy type foods. Now, you may say, well, Dennis, what gives you the right to tell anybody what to eat or not eat? Well, I don't have the right to tell you what to eat. I couldn't force you to eat any one way, but I can tell you what should work and not work for most type 2 diabetics, because I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking on behalf of a little guy named Mike. Mike, the glucose meter, and he knows what works and what doesn't for people with diabetic tendencies. And he taught me well. And I'm just kind of his little messenger boy to pass on to you what will work for you to help get those glucose levels down, 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 and that A1C down, 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 and to get your health, your vitality, your enthusiasm for life up, up, up. So let's go into Walmart and let's see what we can discover. The first section we come to as we enter Walmart is the produce section, which is one of the good guys. If everybody would just stay in this one section and maybe slip out to go to the meat section once in a while, they would probably reduce their chances of diabetes tremendously, or if they have it already, they'd probably get out of that range in many cases, probably most cases. But here we are in the produce section, natural foods. These are not processed foods. These haven't had a dozen different chemicals and ingredients you can't pronounce added to them. And this would be a healthy place for shoppers to really check out and spend a lot of time here and get to know their friends. So we are in a good place right now, and we'll point out some of the really good guys and maybe one or two of the not so good guys. When I went to the store today, I headed straight for the strawberries department. Strawberries are such a great food for people concerned with blood sugar. They have like 1 gram per strawberry. Now, the bigger ones might have 2, but an average size strawberry has 1 gram of carbs to it, and that is not much. Better than the blueberries, better than almost any other berry. And they happen to taste wonderful as well. So I bought actually a package of strawberries for myself, and I wanted to recommend them to you. Well, here's a stand that's got some guys that should work for you, some foods. The green peppers and the cucumbers should not be much of a problem at all. Now, I guess if you ate a dozen green peppers, you might raise your blood sugar a bit. But normally, to have some green pepper with your meal shouldn't be a problem. And cucumbers are even better still, almost no carbs at all. Now, the onions and the tomatoes in the stand are not quite as low carb, but in moderate amounts, they should not be a problem. So essentially, enjoy these foods. Well, here's a great section for you, the spinach section. Spinach is just essentially a free food. You can eat just about as much of it as you want. Now, the reality is nobody's going to pig out on spinach. Popeye maybe, but nobody else. So, but it's good. And Benedicta fixes me soup probably every other week that lasts for some days. And the two of the key ingredients are spinach and okra, along with usually some chicken. So we eat a lot of spinach, and I'm always picking out some spinach at the store for Benedicta's Marvelous Soup. Well, here is a section that most people would say is healthy and wonderful for you, the apples. What does the saying say? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. But an apple a day or an apple with every meal is not going to keep your glucose levels at a normal range. It's going to jack them up. The bigger the apple, the worse. The sweeter the apple, the worse. If you're going to eat apples, eat small ones and tart ones. Don't eat big, fat, sweet apples by any means. And the reality is, I just can get along without them. There was a time when I ate them freely. Now it's quite rare for me to eat an apple. But that's a choice you'll have to make, and it's a choice between you and Mike the meter. Most fruits are just not that good for diabetics, and typically the ones that taste the sweetest are the most problematic. So an avocado technically is a fruit, but it's not a sweet fruit. Not so much of a problem, especially considering how much fiber it has. But here are some of the worst fruits you can eat, and that would be grapes of pretty much any variety. They've been bred and bred again and crossbred and interbred to be as sweet as possible. Why would these grape sellers and grape producers make them so sweet and keep breeding them to get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter? Well, they're not dummies. They're in the business to make money, and they know that people will tend to go back and buy the fruits, the grapes that they enjoyed the most, and sadly, the ones we enjoy the most typically are the sweetest. So grapes are just loaded with sugar, nature's candy. It's just about as bad, if not worse, than a candy bar. I mentioned avocados before, and here they are in all their glory. Avocados are a wonderful fruit. They have actually some carbs to them. It's not like they're carb-free at all, but most of those carbs are fiber carbs, and so they don't really cause much of a problem. You could probably eat a couple with each meal and not see much of a glucose spike. And here we have greens. Greens are just about without carbs. They do have carbs, of course, but they're not going to spike your blood sugar at all. And they're nutritious. So if you enjoy greens, go for them. And if you don't, learn to love them if you can. And they will not be much of a problem for your blood sugar. Well, here's a stand you see way too much of at Walmart and most grocery stores, stands that have cookies, loaded with cookies. My mom, when I was a kid, made cookies all the time. We had a cookie jar, and in that cookie jar were cookies. And when that jar got empty, she'd make more cookies and fill up the cookie jar. So there was always cookies for us to dip into. And here is another monstrosity, frozen desserts. You can get these all over the place. Why do grocery stores stock these desserts? The answer is quite obvious, because people buy them and they make money at it. And the average person would look at this section and think, well, that looks great. But I look at it and I say, that's poison. It's not good for me. It's going to harm me. It could take years of my life off. Now, no, not eating one of these. It's not like I'm such a fanatic that I know that if I eat one, I'd fall down dead. Of course, I won't. But if you make this the practice of your life, eating desserts like these and so many others that are loaded with sugar, you are headed for the land of diabetes and other issues like strokes, like heart attacks, and so many other problems. Even dementia and Alzheimer's is now thought to be caused by diabetes, which is caused by super high insulin and super high glucose as a constant factor in your life. And of course, here is America's favorite sweet treat, ice cream. Who doesn't scream for ice cream? Well, I scream at the very thought of ice cream. There is such a thing as keto ice cream. If you want to try that, see how Mike, the glucose meter, likes it. Give yourself a test about an hour after you eat and see how far your blood sugar has spiked. But regular ice cream, sugar-laden ice cream, not for anybody who's concerned about their health and their blood sugar. Well, here are some frozen sandwiches you can buy. Very convenient, right? You buy the frozen sandwiches, you pull them out of the freezer or pull them out of the fridge, and you warm it up in the microwave. Boom, you got a sandwich. And the average person might look at this and say, well, that shouldn't be a problem. It's not sweet. When you eat a frozen sandwich, it's not like you're eating some sugary dessert. No, you're not. But the bread that makes up those sandwiches is white bread, which is the worst kind of all. Not that whole wheat is all that much better, but it's some better. And that bread is going to turn into sugar in your stomach. So this kind of a treat, this kind of a sandwich, not good. Here is another one of the food sections, the bread and muffins section that the average person would walk right by and maybe buy some of these and never even consider they might not be good for them. Bread, well, how can that be harmful to us? It's just bread. Now, if it was, meat that's going to get into my veins and arteries and clog everything up, yeah, I could understand that. But bread is surely a harmless food and helps fill you up, right? No, the evidence is becoming clearer and louder and stronger every year that goes by that bread is not your friend. We were not meant to gorge on grains. To have an occasional piece of bread, an occasional food made of grains is probably not going to be a big deal, but to eat it constantly the way we do these days, not a good thing. Along with bread, you've got muffins that are not good for you, and so many of these treats made from white flour and sugar. Say it with me, white flour and sugar, just about the two worst possible foods, if you want to call them that, or ingredients that have ever come into the mouths and stomachs of men and women. White flour and sugar. And yet you look around the store and so much of these food products are nothing more than white flour and sugar with a little extra flavor added on. Well, I've been talking rather negatively, been kind of gloomy, been kind of a downer to hear all these bad foods, nasty foods, poisonous foods that are sold in the grocery store. But here's one of the good guys, shrimp. Shrimp is meat, in case you didn't know that. And meat is generally safe when it comes to blood sugar. The only way it would not be safe is if you put a breaded coating on it. Then that bread on the meat could be a problem. But meat by itself is a good thing, whether you're talking shrimp or here's another one, the boneless, skinless chicken breast. We buy lots of this, and Benedicta cooks it up and cuts it in pieces and puts it in our okra and spinach soup. So chicken and pork and beef and, yes, the lowly hamburger. Wonderful foods that are not going to raise your blood sugar. And the more you understand how terrible high blood sugar is with its corresponding high insulin, when you really get it, that your body's being destroyed meal by meal and glucose spike by glucose spike, when you really get that, any food that you eat that's not going to spike you, you look at as a friend, and that's how I see the meat section, whether you're talking fish or chicken or pork or beef, any kind of meat that's not going to spike my blood sugar, which is essentially all meat, is my friend. And I have big helpings. You say, well, I don't know if I can get filled up on the kind of diet you promote, Dennis. Well, you say if you can't get filled up, how about this? If one hamburger and a salad doesn't fill you up, how about having 2 hamburgers and a salad, or 3 hamburgers and a salad, and put an egg on one of those hamburgers or 2 of them? You can get filled up, and meat is a great filler. It's also got lots of nutrition that you can't get anywhere else but with meat, and it will make you to not have glucose spikes. Generally speaking, natural is far superior to unnatural. So Fruit Loops, for example, is an unnatural cereal. They've done a lot of stuff to Fruit Loops to make it the way it is. Potatoes, on the other hand, are natural. They come right out of the ground. They clean them up a bit, ship them off, put them in bags, sell them at the grocery store. Perfectly natural, but not perfectly safe for diabetics. They can spike your blood sugar like almost nothing. They're almost at the level of just raw table sugar in terms of glucose spikes. If you're diabetic or pre-diabetic or don't want to become diabetic, you're going to have to either extremely limit your potatoes or just give them up entirely. I've given them up. Apart from an occasional YouTube video just to prove a point, I won't eat potatoes. I won't eat French fries. I will not eat baked potatoes. I'm not going to eat any kind of potato products whatsoever because of the glucose spike that is attached with them. How do I know they spike blood sugar so much? Again, my friend Mike, the glucose meter, has made this clear again and again and again. Now here is one of my friends, spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash makes a great substitute for spaghetti noodles. You can cook it up in the oven and take a fork and scrape all those little spaghetti squash noodles, if you want to call them that. Put on your spaghetti sauce with some good old hamburger meat in it, and have a meal that's not going to spike your blood sugar. I did a video several years ago comparing different types of spaghetti and different types of noodles, and the spaghetti squash was, along with the cucumber noodles, those two were the clear winners. I hope you found that helpful. There is a lot more to come. I couldn't get it all in one episode, and so in the future we'll share some more from my little trip to Walmart. But this will get you started if you have no idea about what do I eat, what do I avoid. Remember, when the 10 Commandments were given, there were some thou shalts and there were some thou shalt nots. And when it comes to the diet for diabetics, there definitely are some thou shalts. There are some great recipes and meals and foods you can eat for sure. But there are some thou shalt nots as well. So you got to know them both. See you again soon. God bless you.